Hello everyone, welcome to Fishin, the podcast where we discuss modern's most competitive tribe and help the whole community become better Merfolk players. My name is Kody, I'm one of the hosts of the show, and we have on the line from San Antonio, Texas, Matt. How's it going, Matt?
I'm doing okay. Not too bad. I am actually doing fantastic now that I think about it, because when you guys are listening to this, I will be on an island in Florida drinking crappy light beers, enjoying the sun on my vacation.
Why do they have to be crappy? Like, why can't you just buy a decent alcohol?
So, for all the rookies out there, when you're sitting on the beach or next to the pool or whatever, and you're drinking all day, you want to drink crappy light, Miller Lite, Coors Light, whatever, because it's mostly water and you need to stay hydrated. If you drink good beers next to the pool in the sun, you're going to get way too drunk, you're going to get dehydrated, and you're going to have a bad time.
Well, thanks for explaining that. So at least we have that to know for the future. So yeah, you can find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook is at fishcastmtg. We love having discussions with all of you. And it's great. It's a great time. We have great discussions. People show us their decks, their pimped out fish.
He said decks. They show us their decks.
Yes, the deck. So we have a great time.
We don't want you to be aggressive and unwanted.
Talking there about Merfolk. Remember to share us with your friends and show us to that one Merfolk player that you have at your LGS. It would go to a great length to help us grow as a podcast, and we really appreciate the support.
Yeah, and in all seriousness, we do really appreciate everything you guys do for us. We're still doing this 35 episodes now. This is number 35.
This episode will be 35.
35 episodes, so that's at least 350 hours for me and Kody on air. Maybe not all that's made it onto the actual podcast. A lot of it gets edited out, especially a lot of my diatribes. Is diatribe the right word?
I think so. I'd describe what you do as diatribes.
So, but anyway, thank you guys very much.
And remember that you can support us monetarily if you feel that we've helped you grow as a Magic player or a Merfolk player, or just enjoy our content and would like to support us with some cash money. You can support us at patreon.com/fishcastmtg. And believe me, those even $1 a month goes a great deal to helping us get into more streaming stuff. We're working on possibly doing some other cool stuff in the future. So thank you so much for your support, and we promise.
We really want to get Kody streaming more Legacy on MTGO. That's the biggest thing right now. There's just not enough good Legacy in Merfolk content out there. There's some good streamers, don't get me wrong. There's not enough. And I think that's one of the things we really need to start doing.
Yeah, so we're working on all that fun stuff, but it does come at a cost. So we are looking into all that fun stuff to get things going in a reasonable time frame.
Or if somebody just wants to let Kody borrow some cards so we can do some streams, that'd be fantastic as well.
That too. If you would like to lend me your cards, you can email me at fishcastmtg@gmail.com. We'll work something out, and so we could do some Legacy Merfolk stuff. I'm
talking to you, MTG traders. We're shills.
We're the best shills. I know all the shills. And with that, we are going to go straight into the random Merfolk. And again, we didn't have any, as far as I know, because we're recording this and then releasing it in the future. So we may have gotten a new patron, and we're going to assume that patron picked random Merfolk number 74.
For the reason Kody says that is we're actually doing 2 episodes in one night. This is the same night that we did last week's episode, which was the non-blue Merfolk. So for any of you who listened to that episode and wonder why I sound like crap, is I am sick because it's the same night that I recorded that one. But I'm on a lot of cough drops and a lot of NyQuil. We'll get through this. And hopefully very entertainingly.
Yes. So the random Merfolk is actually a new one from Rivals of Ixalan. It is it's okay, I suppose. It's Jadecraft Artisan.
This is toddler fodder.
Yeah, draft chaff.
This is garbage.
You don't even need to sleeve this draft deck when this is a high pick in your deck.
So Jadecraft Artisan is 1 green, 3 of anything for a 3/3 Merfolk Shaman. And it has, when Jadecraft Artisan enters the battlefield, target creature gets 2/2 until the end of turn. And it has a flavor text of, a blade is not fully forged until it is given. The mana cost sucks. The ability sucks. The creature sucks. The flavor text sucks. The art kind of sucks.
I'd say it's a limited C+. Like, a 3/3 for 4 isn't terrible, plus it's any creature, it's not just Merfolk. So, I mean, this is something that you could do to, like, push through the last bits of damage in a game of Limited. Like I said, it's not something you would write to your parents about to explain how great Magic is. Like, you would be like, Magic is great, and it's because of Jadecraft Artisan.
I mean, maybe in a limited environment, it might have something of value. But, I mean, I'm usually the glass half full kind of guy when it comes to these random Merfolk, because I can usually find, like, the flavor text or the art, or it's at least just goofy enough. I mean, this thing takes itself too seriously. The art's not great. I mean, there's nothing here for me.
Yeah, like I said, I'm not praising it by any means, but it's passable in Rivals of
Call
Islam.
it the trash panda that it is. Call it the trash panda that it is.
I don't know if I can go that far, but it's fine. And that's
Your mom's fine.
My mom is an okay person, I suppose. So we are going to move right on into our primary topic, which is one that I don't know if it's necessarily been asked for, but it's something that comes up in the Merfolk community from time to time, just when people are trying to, kind of figure out what's going on, especially in a time like right now where Mono Blue Merfolk it's a good deck, but it's just not quite, hitting all the beats that it needs to be, a top performing deck.
It's very tier 2 right now.
Yes, and so this is kind of the time where people are experimenting, with maybe putting in a new color, or we're trying out some sort of new sideboard tech, and we're going to be talking about the white splash in Modern, or maybe just kind of the white splash in Merfolk in general.
Now, we talked about this a long time ago, actually, and my argument was, if Stoneforge Mystic got unbanned, I think a white-blue Merfolk deck would be a perfect place for it to live, because you could play your Stoneforge Mystic, you could bring in Sword of Fire and Ice, or a Batterskull, or something along those lines. You can equip a Merfolk, which has perfect evasion with Island Walk with a Lord in play, and quickly overtake the game.
Yeah.
But that perfect world doesn't exist. We don't have Stoneforge Mystic. That being said, can blue-white, Azorius, Merfolk, and Modern actually be a thing? And I'm going to say maybe.
Yeah, it's definitely not a bad, it's not a bad deck. But it's one of those things that if you know what's kind of going on in your meta, then maybe going blue-white is something that can really help you. So let's start off with the mana base for blue-white.
Can I backtrack just a little bit for it?
Absolutely not.
Well, we know what's going to happen. I'm just going to keep talking. So anyway, one thing I do want to say is, and I think we talked about this in one of the previous episodes, is blue-white Merfolk actually was a competitive deck during the extended period, which was pre-modern. So we do have something to look back on that was very successful. So it's not out of the realm of possibility to say this cannot be a deck again. So I just want to throw that out there to anybody who's going to say, well, blue-white, why would you ever do that? Just blah, blah, blah. Because you're always going to have those people who are going to poo-poo your idea because it's not the norm. So first of all, those guys are jerks. Ignore them. Second of all, this does have a history of success, be it a long time ago. But I think it can make a comeback. And Cody's not going to talk about the mana base.
All right, so we talked about the Swolfolk, basically the blue-green tropical Merfolk. It goes by several names. One of the main problems with splashing for green is the fetch lands that you have to run. And we also need to run some number of breeding pools. Generally, 2 is the agreed upon number. And obviously, we have Cavernous Souls, which also acts as fixing. However, Cavernous Souls is just not fetchable. So we're kind of in a situation with blue green where we have to work with fetch lands, we have to work with shock lands, kind of like a regular modern deck. Not so with the blue white version, because we have a special land that actually does see a little bit of play, even in mono blue decks, just as kind of a hedge against choke decks or boil. Which honestly I haven't seen a whole lot of in my Merfolk career, but it does crop up from time to time. And that is Wanderwine Hub.
Which we actually might be seeing more of now that the blue-white control has become more of a popular deck. I wouldn't be surprised to see that in more sideboards.
Yeah, so Wanderwine Hub is a land that taps for blue or whites, but it comes into play tapped unless you reveal a Merfolk from your hand. So this is basically a free dual land if you're going to show them something that they know is already in your deck. So if you're playing Merfolk and you're the Merfolk guy or girl at your LGS, generally people are going to know that what you're coming to bat with, right? So I mean, if you show them Lord of Atlantis or you show them a Silver Go Adept, you're not giving them any information that they didn't already have.
No, absolutely. So, and the nice thing is playing a mana base without the fetches and shocks is you get to keep your extra life, which in a game of Modern, especially in Merfolk, could be a major, major thing. And I think that's one of the things that's holding the Swolefolk deck back is the fact they do have to chip out their own life total to add that green splash, which you don't have to do here.
Well, and blue-green kind of acts a little bit like Infect, where your life total doesn't matter. The whole deck is 3 mana cost or less, and your whole job in Swolefolk is to turn your creature sideways as quickly as possible. And so losing the incremental life isn't too bad, but you're correct. Like if you didn't have to go through, losing a life here, losing 2 life from shocking in a land, like you would definitely be in a better spot.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely.
The other way we can go with this, I mean, obviously, like I said, we have Cavern of Souls, which taps for either color, but this does limit it because it's only for creatures. So, for other types of white spells, that doesn't help us out a lot. But the other card that I would recommend for blue-white Merfolk is Seacrum Coast, which is the blue-white fast land, and actually, it's a pretty cheap land itself. Seacrum Coast don't cost that much.
No. Actually, I completely agree. And I think the fast lands in this is a huge addition because you're really only trying to get those out on turn 1, turn 2 anyway. And after that, the Merfolk deck doesn't need too much more land anyway. It's a fantastic card. Absolutely would play it in this format. And as Kody was saying, this deck that we're hypothetically putting together would not actually run any shocks or fetches at all.
And the other thing that's important to note as we go over kind of the cards that we would like to see in a blue-white deck, and I would also point you to Nikachu. Nikachu's done some videos on blue-white modern Merfolk, and he has very similar views to us in this regard. Is that honestly, main board, you're not doing a whole lot for the white splash. It's mostly in the sideboard where you're adding things. So, we're honestly not using a whole bunch of white mana anyway, so we're not in a hurry to get our white mana. So, I mean, obviously with Seacrum Coast and Wanderwine Hub, they tap for blue because that's what we're mainly going for with our Lords and our Silvergill Adepts and whatnot. But, at most you're ever needing 1 or 2 white mana, and you're never really needing more than that.
So other than those lands, the ones that... So I'm looking at the extended deck. The lands the extended deck played were 2 Mystic Gates, which is the white-blue filter land, and 3 Glacial Fortresses, which are the dual land that enters the battlefield tapped unless you control an island or plains. Now, Extended was pre-Innistrad block, so they did not have Cavern of Souls printed yet. I think absolutely we play a place at a Cavern of Souls. So you can probably take out all 3 of the Glacial Fortresses, maybe only play 1 Mystic Gate, in my opinion. Kody, would you agree?
I honestly probably wouldn't mess around with Mystic Gate very much, just because the amount of white pips are incredibly low, and having 8 sources of white that are specifically for non-creature spells is actually okay in my opinion. I would like to kind of go to like 2 Cavern of Souls, 4 of each of the Seacrum Coast, the Wanderwine hubs, 4 of Mutavaults, and then fill out the rest with islands, rounding out, or sorry, 6 islands. So that'd be rounding out to 20 lands, at least for
actually,
modern.
Yeah. Well, and one thing that we missed is, and something I think we absolutely need to be played, is at least one Celestial Colonnade.
Oh yeah, that's fair. It's kind of just like a backup, win condition. So maybe we could cut like one Seachrome Coast for the one of Celestial Colonnade.
Possibly, or you just run 21 lands.
Yeah, 21 isn't too bad.
Yeah. Again, it's a backup in case we get the mana screw, and if not, it's in late game. If we get flooded out, it's a giant beater that can end games for us.
Yeah, that's definitely true. We're totally okay with that. Having something to dump our mana into late game is all right.
So go ahead.
So going into the main deck, from all the lists that I've scoured and all the information that I've dug for, there's basically almost only one reason that the white splash exists, and it's
Path to Exile.
Yeah, we've talked about Path to Exile. Path to Exile is basically one I personally think is the best removal spell in Modern. It has the least.
I would agree.
It has the least amount of drawbacks, basically. Like the only reason this wouldn't work is if your opponents had hexproof or the creatures had hexproof, and that's like saying, oh, it dies to Doomblade. Like, of course it dies to Doomblade. Like, like every creature dies to Doomblade. So
the indestructible Eldrazi quiver to Path to Exile. So
yeah,
it's an amazing card.
Yeah, and so Path to Exile is an excellent reason to run to do the white splash. But honestly, most of the white splash is for cards in the sideboard. And I know, Matt, you have a list of cards, and I'm sure that we'll discuss a lot of these as we go on.
No, absolutely. So essentially, again, just make sure that you keep your mono blue deck essentially the same. You're going to play your tricksters. You're going to play your 8 to 12 lords. You're going to play your Silvergill Adepts, some counter magic.
Yeah, Spell Pierce or Curse Catcher, whichever is your flavor. I personally am a bigger fan of Spell Pierce than Curse Catcher, but you can run maybe like 2 Curse Catcher and 2 Mistcallers, or 2 Curse Catcher, 2 Spell Pierce, and still Master of the Pearl Trident, Master of Waves, Mirror Regery, all good. I'd say that maybe the only other card that you might do main board is Sig River Guide. Because of its protection ability. So the Sig River Guide, I think we've discussed Sig before. He's a legendary Merfolk. That's a 2/2. He's a Merfolk wizard, actually. He has Island Walk native.
He's a wizard, Harry.
And he has an ability, 1 and a white, target Merfolk you control gains protection from the color of your choice until end of turn.
Yeah, no, Sig would be a cool one of.
Yeah, and I would only recommend it as a one of. I wouldn't recommend you going in hard with Sig, but it's still an okay card. It gives protection,
and I guarantee you, every time you play it, your opponent's going to look at you, look down the card, look at you, take the card, turn it around, and have to read it.
Yep. All right, so let's go over some more things that we could find in the sideboard that might be helpful in blue-white Merfolk.
No, absolutely. And I think this is where this deck would really, really shine. And I think Kody will disagree to a certain extent, but I think that the mono blue Merfolk sideboard is probably one of the weakest sideboards in the format. There's just not much going on there.
I'd say, the biggest problem that plagues mono blue's the sideboard for mono blue is that the strongest pieces are pieces that are found in almost any sideboard. So, there's Relic of Progenitus, Grafdigger's Cage, and I think the strongest piece is Deprive, which is just a hard counter. But you could see Dismember in any list. That's not exclusive to Merfolk.
No, absolutely. But, especially in my opinion, white is the strongest sideboard piece that you can have in Magic. especially in Modern right now. So adding that to this deck, I think could really, really improve it. Now, the big three are going to be Leyline of Sanctity, Rest in Peace, and Stony Silence. So, Leyline of Sanctity, for those who don't know, it's 2 white, 2 of anything, and you cannot be the target of spells or abilities your opponents control. The big thing about all the landlines, though, is if it's in your opening hand, you get to play it before the game starts for free. Very, very, very powerful card. It prevents you from getting hit with duresses and thought seizes. It shuts down. So Leyline of Sanctity, it shuts down burn because you can't be targeted. It shuts down Valakut because you can't be targeted. It makes it so you can't be discarding cards from duresses and thought seizes. It's very, very good. Again, more often than not, you're not going to care so much about the discarding cards. I think there'll be other things you want to play instead of Leyline of Sanctity. But for anything that's going to do direct damage to you, especially burn or Valakut, absolutely amazing. And more often than not, against those decks, you're going to start mulling until you have it in your opening hand and play it for free because they can't really beat it.
Yeah, and again, as I said early on at the beginning of this episode, it's kind of one of those things that you know what your meta is. And if you see lots of burn players, if you see lots of Valakut players, if you see lots of rack players, this is something that, you might consider is like, oh, well, obviously blue-white's much better because I have all these direct damage spells coming at my face and whatnot. So, you'd be in a much better place to run these. And it's definitely a meta call for sure.
No, absolutely. So Rest in Peace, 1 white, 1 of anything for an enchantment. Graveyards are exiled, and cards that go to the graveyard are exiled instead. Absolutely best graveyard hate card ever printed, hands down, no ifs, ands, or buts. It completely shuts out Dredge. It really hurts Hollow One. The Goryo's Vengeance Reanimator, it really hurts. It destroys Tarmogoyf, so it's really good against all your rock decks and your Jund decks. It really hurts Snapcasters, so anytime they're trying to be recurring things from the graveyard with your Snap, it really hurts them. It's played in a lot of different ways.
So the only thing that I would have against Rest in Peace, and again, just like Matt said, it's one of the best in white answers to the graveyard. I totally agree with that. The only problem that I have with it currently is that a lot of the decks that actually use the graveyard, so decks like Hollow One, Bridgevine, there's even just red green, red black Vengevine decks, and also lots of things that use like flashback. Well, I mean, maybe not. I guess not as much the flashback decks, but those are decks that kind of go off super early. And unlike the Leyline, there's no way to get this in faster than turn 2. Now,
but I mean, it's just a necessary evil. So I know where you're going with this, and you're going to argue that Relic of Progenitus may be better, or even Tormod's Crypt. But again, Relic of Progenitus is a one-off. This is not going anywhere, and enchantments are incredibly hard to get rid of in Modern.
Yeah, and I agree though that even though you can't get it out any sooner than turn 2. If you're playing against a deck that needs the graveyard, like those decks, then you would do much worse than to play this on turn 2. And so you have to change your priorities when you know what you're playing against, like a Hollow One or something like that. And this is definitely a good place to go.
Absolutely. So the next of the big three is Stony Silence. Stony Silence is 1 white, 1 of anything for an enchantment. Activated abilities of artifacts cannot be activated. So Stony Silence shuts down your affinity. It shuts down Hardened Scales affinity. And it shuts down the new Nightmare of Modern, the Ironworks decks. And actually, it also does a lot of damage to Tron as well, because it prevents the maps from being able to search out pieces, and it makes it so they can't crack their eggs.
Yep. So yeah, definitely a great card. Like you said, it hits some very specific decks, but I mean KCI is kind of huge right now, and so it's not uncommon for people to just pick up a deck because it's doing well. And if somebody from your local shop just picks up the deck because it's doing well, then you know what? you've got a really great answer for that deck. So, yeah, I have nothing else to say about it.
The one thing you will have to remember is whereas Rest in Peace and Leyline Sanctity do no harm to you, this can, because it will shut down your Aether Vials.
Yes, so definitely that is something to consider. Just know that in the back of your head, and maybe siding out your Aether Vials in those matchups is okay.
And it would depend on how many copies of Stony Silence you would play as well. Right now, I think it would be at least 2.
Yeah, definitely.
With Hardscale Affinity and Ironworks decks just running around like crazy right now.
I would say so, yeah. Do you have any more white cards that you want to discuss?
Oh, I got a ton. Buckle up, Buckaroo.
My office chair does not have a seatbelt, so I will have to.
We're going to be here for a minute. So the next one I wanted to bring up was Burton Forge Tender. It is the Kithkin, and I'm going to go off the top of my head, so correct me if I'm wrong, but it's 2 white for a 2/2 Kithkin Wizard, and it has the ability Sack It and prevent all damage to creatures you control from red spells.
Yep.
There you go, off the top of the head. Big thing with this is Anger of the Gods. So Anger of the Gods is going to be something that's being played in your burn decks and sometimes in Grixis decks and various other red decks. I think Panza plays it, and I'm not sure if Valakut plays it. I've seen it before. But it's a big sweeper against your creatures, knocks out everything on your board, and if you have the Burton Forge Tender, if you can vial it in, all of a sudden, everything is fine.
Yep, everything's fine. No problems there. I have seen it played in Scape Shift lists from the out of the side. It's definitely something to watch out for, because you don't want to. It's a common answer to Merfolk and other tribal decks. So it's really something that can help in those matchups. So I'm totally a big fan of the Forge Tender, and it was just recently reprinted as well.
It was
M25. A25, whatever they called it.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Next one I wanted to bring up was Blessed Alliance. I think it possibly sees some sideboard love. So Blessed Alliance is 1 white, 1 of anything. It has choose 1 or more. Target player gains 4 life. Untap 2 creatures. Target opponent sacrifices an attacking creature. It has Escalate 2. So for each 1 past the first, you have to pay an additional 2 mana. Now, for Merfolk, untapping 2 creatures probably doesn't matter that much. But gaining 4 life and having an opponent sacrifice an attacking creature could be absolutely huge.
Yeah, no, I totally agree.
Again, I think this is a little bit more fringe because you'd have the Path to Exiles, but I still think it'd be a potential play.
Yeah, and it just being modal, you've got lots of outs to maybe kind of play around with it a little bit and have those multiple ways you can use it. So it's not just it's not always going to be a dead spell in your hand.
So another one, which is, again, probably a little more fringe, maybe won't see play, but I think it's worth at least discussing, is Timely Reinforcements. 1 white, 2 of anything. If you have less life than your opponent, you gain 6 life. Oh, it's a sorcery, by the way. And if you have fewer creatures than your opponent, create 3 1/1 white soldier creature tokens. Now, again, probably not going to see play because you're most likely going to have more creatures than your opponent, so you're not going to get the tokens. But if you're in a bind and you're way behind in resources, this could be big. So I've seen this in a lot of sideboards that play white as 1 of. And I just want to at least bring it up.
Yeah, totally. I see no problem with this. This is fine. I think the only problem with this is, finding the room. I mean, you only have 15 cards, and I'm not saying that this is a bad card. It is definitely used in Modern. A lot of, especially the blue-white control decks, can sometimes bring those in against more aggro decks, and Jeskai control. Just in Merfolk, it might be hard to find the space. Just to it's probably the least impactful of all the cards you've brought up so far.
Oh yeah, no, I'm definitely going best to worst.
Okay.
So I want to finish off with 3 creatures. First one being the Militia Bugler. Kody, can you tell us what that one does?
Yeah, Militia Bugler is a human soldier that's cost 2 and a white for a 2/3 with vigilance. And when Militia Bugler enters the battlefield, Look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature card with power 2 or less from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order.
So essentially, grab a lord.
Yeah, grab a lord, grab a trickster. You can basically. I'm not saying that this is like the end all be all, and this is definitely the one of the cards that I kind of slid over to you to discuss.
Yeah.
It was it's definitely interesting. I'm not saying that this is something that you should really force into your Merfolk deck, and this would be something I think that would be more of a main board edition than a sideboard edition. But if you were to test it, I think it would be okay. I can't say that it would be stupefyingly fantastic, but I think it's fine. What do you think?
No, I think it'd be fine. We're play testing. We're thinking outside the box here, so I think we might have a little bit of fins on this one. I'm not sure. So again, my next one that I wanted to bring up was Ranger of Eos. Ranger of Eos is 1 white and 3 of anything. When Ranger of Eos enters the battlefield, you may search your library for up to 2 creature cards with permanent cost 1 or less, reveal them, and put them into your hand. So essentially, you either grab His Caller or Curse Catcher. So this is assuming that we want Curse Catchers over Spell Pierces. But you get to grab both of them. You get to extend your board, extend your hand, and have the extra counter spells on the stick. So, potential.
Yeah, and again, this is something that, when you're building your deck, you're going to, I would also say that this is probably more of a main board card than a sideboard card, because I don't foresee a whole lot of times where you will be playing, your game, and then you'll go, what would make this better is a way to search up Curse Catcher. So this would be something that you would be playing Curse Catchers in Mistcaller's main, and you would need a way to get them just to kind of help like Matt said, is just fill out your board. So yeah, not too bad there.
So the last card that I wanted to bring up, again, this actually might also be another main board card, would be Revelark. So Revelark is 1 white 4 of anything for a creature elemental. She's a 4/3. I think Revelark could be a she, right?
Sure. I don't know. I don't know the
do elementals
the
have gender?
That's what I was about to say. I don't know how elementals gender themselves, but that is definitely we can use she or he or it or they, whatever suits your fancy. I don't know also how if elementals are touchy on the subject, so they may not be it may not be that big of a deal. They might just not care.
We need answers to these questions.
Yeah, we'll have to get an elemental on the show to. Actually, no. So in the Lorwyn novel, I'm blanking on her name. The Ashling is referred to as a she. So, well, I guess Ashling is a flamekin and not an elemental. I don't know. Carry on. We'll have to bring on an expert on elementals to let us know.
If you're an elemental expert, please reach out to us on Twitter. We have questions for you.
Yes, fishcast.com/ Twitter will be at fishcastmtg.
So anyway, Revelark is a 4/3 elemental with flying. And it has, when Revelark enters the battlefield, return up to 2 creature cards with mana cost 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. It also has Invoke, which is 1 white 5 of anything. You may cast the spell for its Invoke cost. If you do, sacrifice it when it enters the battlefield. So, essentially, you can have it come into play as a creature and have it as a 4/3 beat stick. Or if it's late game and you have the mana up to 6, you can have it come in for its Convoke cost. It'll immediately leave play and die, and you get to bring back 2 lords from your graveyard to the battlefield.
Yeah, and actually there was a discussion about this on Reddit where somebody brought it up about playing it as maybe a 1 of or a 2 of in the main board. The only thing that I have really as an argument against it is, like you said, it basically only works in the late game. This only works kind of okay in the early game, when you're just hard cast it, but you likely just want this to die and pull out the lords to make your creatures evasive, and that's more what you want. And unfortunately, this just doesn't work until the end of the game.
So maybe it's a one up in the sideboard for like grindier matches.
Yeah, that's possible. Like I could see this against like blue white control or Jeskai control would be
Yeah.
pretty good.
And I mean, so you can cast it for 5 and have it be a very grindy card, just swinging away, and eventually they're going to have to answer it, and then you're going to bring something back with it.
Yeah, and we're honestly
because
now,
when it leaves the battlefield, when it's path to exiled, it is leaving the battlefield, so you still get the ability.
and honestly, we're in a point right now where the aggressive decks in Modern are super aggressive, and the control decks are super grindy. So this is definitely a card you wouldn't want main. Like you would need to know, like this game is going to 15 turns, and we're gonna
cast a Revelark.
Yeah, we're gonna cast Revelark this game. So I would suggest this for a sideboard. Yeah,
but that's all I got. I think there's a lot here, and I think that there's a lot of potential for the blue-white Azorius Merfolk deck to be a thing.
Yeah, it's
again. I mean, we're still missing the best card, which is Stoneforge Mystic, and it's gonna come. I mean, it's the worst kept secret at Wizards headquarters that they're just waiting for the right time to reprint the card to make $1 million off of it.
Yeah, I agree, and just like Jace the Mind Sculptor, I'm sure there's definitely a time where this will work. Like it'll get reprinted in some sort of maybe Eternal Masters 2. Is a place that they could reprint that without too big of a fuss. And then, then they just go, oh, and by the way, it's unbanned, after it gets sent out, just like they did with Jace. And I honestly don't think it's so powerful that it couldn't be released without any issues.
Yeah, but until that happens, I still think this deck could see play. I think it would actually be really good right now.
What do you think about Core Firewalker?
I think Core Firewalker's fine. I think the Force Tender's better.
Yeah, okay, that's fair.
So Core Firewalker is 2 white for a 2/2 protection from red. When a player casts a red spell, you may gain 1 life. So I just don't think Burn's big enough right now, and it's really just an anti-burn card.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, I could say like maybe 2 years ago, if we were making this podcast 2 years ago, then maybe I would say that was a little bit higher on the list. Right after Cons-ish is kind of when people kind of freaked out about Taylor Swift Spear getting added to Burn, and so like that's where like Burn was super high up. So the only other card that
a lot of people were playing Dragonclaw at the time. I played Green White Tron for at that point, and I was playing Circle Protection Red in my sideboard. And really making people pissed off.
Yeah.
Tron player making people pissed off. Who would have thought?
So the last card that I wanted to bring up is a card that is very definitely pretty narrow. And again, I think it's kind of maybe more towards like the red, protection against red decks, is Ruined Halo. So Ruined Halo costs white, and it's an enchantment. As Ruined Halo comes into play, name a card. You have protection from the chosen name. So this is definitely something like for Valakut the Molten Pinnacle, Eidolon of the Great Revel, and even just like if you know that you're playing against like an Emrakul deck, like you can just say Emrakul, and just kind of shut that off.
Yeah, or even like a Tron deck, you can say Wormcoil or Primeval Titan or any big beater that you know is coming your way. Tarmogoyf if you're playing against a Jund deck.
Yeah, Hollow One. Vengevine. If you just give yourself protection from Vengevine, then that's often enough to shut down those decks. They can't get damage in quick enough.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, it's definitely spicy. You don't see it very much right now in Modern.
Yeah, if
at all.
It's spicy. I'm not saying that it's super great or anything like that, but it is definitely something that could see some play. I think it's interesting.
So I think that covers about all of them, doesn't it? That at least we have off the top of our heads. I do want to hear what our listeners have to say, though.
Yeah, so if you listen to this podcast and you were shouting the entire time, hey, why didn't you say XYZ card? Please let us know.
The reason is because it's not modern legal, dummy.
Well, that's possible, but
Sorry, that was aggressive.
That was pretty aggressive. But we are both humans, so we do miss things. So let us know what you think you would play if you were playing blue-white Merfolk in Modern. You can reach out to us on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook as @fishcastmtg. If you have a longer form question or want to talk about something more specific, you can reach out to us at fishcastmtg@gmail.com. Our cover art was made by Tessa and Hunter Pruitt. And if you like what we're doing here, please rate and subscribe in the Google Play, Apple Podcasts, Soars, Stitcher Radio, wherever you find your podcast, find us and rate us. And if you really, 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 really like us, please go over to patreon.com/fishcastmtg to support us on Patreon. That definitely helps out. And I actually forgot to say it last episode. I stream Modern Merfolk at least once a week. Sometimes I sneak in a second one, and that is at twitch.tv/fishcastmtg.
And just as Wedge is a jerk and uses all of his Patreon money to buy Magic Art, I'm using all of our Patreon money right now here at the beach to buy fruity drinks and crappy beer. So thank you all very much.
I promise that he doesn't have access to do that. We will not be spending Patreon money on alcohol just yet. So.
Me and Wedge are constantly laughing at you all as we spend our Patreon money evilly.
Yes, you're both terrible. How dare you get supported voluntarily?
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very much, everybody, for joining us, talking about blue-white Merfolk in Modern, and we will see you all next week.
All right. Have a good night, everyone.